Hello there, travelers. I am Leonardo MacLeod from the Clan MacLeod, and I bring to you some of the amazing tales that I've gathered through my travels. So please,
Stay a while and listen.
Mrs. Jumbo was very sad because all she wanted in this world was to have a puppy. Several animals from the circus had babies, and the more she watched it, the mothers with their babies, the sadder she became. Until one day the stork finally brought a baby for Mrs. Jumbo. The little elephant was the cutest creature she had ever seen, and that made Mrs. Jumbo the happiest animal in the circus. But then something happened. Her baby sneezed, opening his ears. The little elephant's ears were huge, and the others started laughing at the baby in an unfriendly way. Instead of putting his name Jumbo Jr., suggested one of the elephants, you should just call him Dumbo. The other elephants laughed at the suggestion. Mrs. Jumbo ignored the provocations and involved her beloved puppy with her trunk. As the days went by, she loved her baby even more, played at hide and seek with him, pretended to be surprised when the puppy hid behind her legs, and also played tickling with him. Every night she sang lullabies and danced together when Dumbo woke up. One night, Mrs. Jumbo realized that her precious baby was very sad. She discovered that the other elephants had provoked him and was outraged, but she lovingly accommodated him on the bed and wrapped his huge ears around him so that he would be warm and protected. Don't care about what they say, she said fondly. You will grow up to be a beautiful elephant. Would you like me to sing you a lullaby, dear? While Dumbo nodded in agreement, Mrs. Jumbo heard the other elephants talking softly in the paddock next door. Sincerely, one of them was saying, the way she pampers him. You can even think that is the last elephant on earth. She is spoiling her son, yes. But Mrs. Jumbo ignored it and started singing. Here I must apologize. I am no singer or writer, so I have no idea how the melody must go, but here are some of the lyrics. Sleep, sleep, my puppy. You don't have to cry, because mommy is here to sing. And if one day someone laughs at your ears, mom will be here for your tears to dry. And if the tears haven't dried it, don't mind, for your ears are the most beautiful in the world. So she continued to sing softly until Dumbo's eyes closed and he fell asleep. Mrs. Jumbo sang some more, then stopped it. But wait, why was everything so quiet? While Mrs. Jumbo sang to her puppy, the other elephants listened to the sweet melody and ended up sleeping as well. Who can resist a beautiful lullaby to fall asleep, right? The story of Marlin. P. Sherman 42 Wallaby Street, Sydney. P. Sherman 42 Wallaby Street, Sydney. Dory kept repeating the address. She and Marlin were looking for his missing son, Nemo. They had just escaped off a fish and were looking for someone who could teach them the way to the city of Sydney. That was where Nemo was. P. Sherman 42 Wallaby Street, Sydney. Dory continued to repeat. Marlin had already memorized the address and thought he would go crazy if he had to listen it again. Dory, he said, letting out a long breath. I know you're just trying to help, but do you really need to keep talking? I love to talk, Dory replied. I'm really good at that. What was I really talking about? I just want to find Nemo, Marley said. That's right, Nemo, said Dory. One day, Nemo and I, Marley started. Go ahead, Dory interrupted. Is the story good? Yes, it's very good, said Marlin, relieved to have managed to get Dory to stop repeating the address. Well, Marlin continued. One day I took Nemo to the other side of the coral to visit a relative of mine who was known as the fastest clownfish. But when we visited him, he was very old. Dory yawned. When does the good part start? She asked. Marlin sighed. I was almost there, he said. Moving on. When we were coming home, guess what happened? What? Dory asked. A huge jellyfish was blocking the passage between the two bushes. I know, Dory exclaimed. She seemed to be trying to remember something. P. Sherman, she murmured softly. For a moment, I thought we were finished. Marty continued without caring. But then a huge sea turtle appeared and swallowed the jellyfish at once. Did you thank the sea turtle? Said Dory. Marty continued. I was afraid she wanted to eat us too, so Nemo and I ran out. Since then, I have been fascinated by sea turtles, but I hope I never meet another jellyfish again. I have a story to tell too, Doris said, very excited. At P. Sherman 42 Wallaby Street, Sydney, a fish called it's living there and well. Marlin sighed and continued to swim. The Lion King frightened kittens. Nala, Simba whispered, are you awake? Yes, Nala whispered back, leaving the dark corner where she slept next to her mother. What are you doing here? You're gonna get us in trouble again. The day before, Simba and Nala had gone to explore the elephant cemetery, where they ended up in a trap set by the hyenas. Simba's father, Mufasa, was the one who saved them. Come on, Simba insisted. Come with me. Soon the two cubs were roaming the dark savannah at the foot of Pride Rock. What are you looking for? Nala asked. I just wanted to know if you were still scared, Simba replied. Nala looked at him angrily. Scared? She exclaimed. You are not implying that I was scared, are you? Because of course I wasn't scared just because of some silly hyenas. I would not have been afraid even if I had been forced to face 10 hyenas and a ferocious buffalo, Nala said. Oh yeah? Simba exclaimed. Well, I wouldn't have been afraid even if I had been forced to face 30 hyenas and a ferocious buffalo and one Kalo furious! A voice appeared in the darkness. Ah! Simba and Nala shouted, jumping in fright. At that moment, a very colorful bird appeared. It was Zazu, Mufasa's faithful advisor. Zazu, Simba shouted, you scared us. I wasn't scared, Nala stated. Me neither, Simba tried to fix it. Zazu looked at them. Then the two of you weren't scared, were you? He asked. That certainly explains the shaking. You took us by surprise, that's all, Nala grunted. Zazu waved his feathers. Listen to one thing, both of you, he said. It is no shame to admit to be afraid. Not even King Mufasa would be able to deny that he was frightened when he learned that you had disappeared, Simba. And even if the king can confess that he was scared, then you two can too, right? I think so, Simba said as Nala shrugged it. We are all afraid, Zazu continued. The way you react to fear is what matters. It is at that moment that true courage appears. Do you understand? I understand, Simba and Nala said in chorus. Great! Zazu marched towards the Pride Rock. The sun was beginning to dawn on the horizon and it was time for breakfast. Now let's go home quickly or I'll give you a reason to be really scared. Triple confusion. Toulouse and Berlioz fled through the back door of Madame Adeline's house. Behind them came Marie in her feminine walk, with her long white tail swimming from side to side. But even she can help jumping in fright at her brother's surprise attack. Toulouse, when she suddenly turned around. "Here I go!" cried his other brother, Berlioz, as he threw himself on his brothers. Marie managed to escape, but Berlioz and Toulouse rolled across the lawn. "I surprised you both," Berlioz exclaimed proudly. "I'm the best jumper." "Oh, yes?" asked Toulouse. "If you are so good, let's see if you can climb on top of that oak." He lifted his chin, pointing at the top of the tree that rose over their heads. "It will be a pleasure," Berlioz replied, and jumped nimbly over a lower branch and started to climb to the top of the immense tree. "Be careful!" Maurice shouted from below. Berlioz was climbing very high. It didn't take long, and he was already balancing on the highest branch. "Don't worry about me!" Berlioz shouted. He was already so high that it was difficult to hear his voice. Toulouse lifted his paw. "Very well, you are very good!" he shouted to his brother. "Now you can come down." But Berlioz did not move. "I said, come on down!" Toulouse repeated. I can't do it," Berlioz confessed in a shaky voice. "I'm stuck." Berlioz began to meow in despair. Soon his brother and sister were also meowing. Minutes later, Madame Adelaide opened one of the upstairs windows in the house. She and Duchess stuck their heads out to see what all the noise was about. "Oh my!" Duchess exclaimed, when she saw where Berlioz was. "What are you doing there?" "Don't worry, we will help you already," Madame Adeline assured. Shortly thereafter, she and Duchess appeared in the yard, accompanied by Edgar, who was frowning and carrying a ladder. "Please, Edgar, go up the stairs to get him, will you?" Madame Adelaide asked the butler. Edgar frowned and mumbled something about kittens being silly, but he leaned the ladder against the tree trunk and started to climb. Soon, Berlioz was already safe and sound on dry land. Madame Adelaide smiled at Duchess. "Edgar is so dedicated to his precious kittens," she said. A new friend. It had been almost a week since Cinderella's stepmother forced her to move from her room to the old attic. However, Cinderella had not yet gotten used to her new room, almost unfurnished and very lonely. Cinderella's only company was a mouse she had seen coming and going through a little hole in a corner of the room. Cinderella had always loved animals, and mice were no exception. But how could she show her new friend that he needed not be afraid? Well, Cinderella thought, he must be cold and hungry. One day at dinner time, Cinderella hid a piece of cheese in her apron pocket. That night, after finishing all her duties, Cinderella ran to her room and picked up her sewing box. She used some scraps to make a little outfit for the mouse: a red shirt, a hat, an orange jacket, and a pair of brown shoes. "A little outfit for my little friend," she said. Cinderella placed the clothes in front of the hole in the wall and knelt down. Then she took the piece of cheese out of her pocket and placed it beside the clothes in the palm of her hand. Then she reached out an open hand to the small door and called it. "Hello, is anyone there?" Very suspicious, the mouse put his face out of the hole and sniffed at the air. But when he saw the cheese, he came out of the hole and approached Cinderella's hand. He stopped it and looked up as if asking a question. You can take it, she said gently. They are gifts for you. The mouse seemed to understand. As he came a little closer, picked up his clothes and cheese, he ran back to his den. Cinderella laughed, then waited patiently for a few minutes, kneeling before the little hole, and then she asked after a while, "Can I see how the clothes look on you?" Very awkwardly, the mouse came out wearing his new clothes. Cinderella clapped her hands. "Perfect," she said. "Did you like it?" The mouse nodded. Then he jumped as if he just had an idea and ran back to play it. Cinderella frowned suspiciously. Was he afraid? But soon the mouse reappeared, accompanied by other mice that were very shy behind him. "More friends," Cinderella said, surprised. She ran to get her sewing box, delighted to have found the warmth of friendship in the coldness of the attic. Mike's worst nightmare. "Ah!" Mike shouted and suddenly sat scared on the bed. Sully ran out of his room and opened Mike's door. "Hi," Mike said. "I think I had a nightmare." He sat on the bed and gave Sully an awkward smile. "I haven't had a nightmare since I was little." Sully shook his head. "Very well. Now, good night, Mike." Sully, wouldn't you like to hear about my nightmare?" Mike asked it with a hopeful smile. Sully came over and sat on the edge of his friend's bed. "You can tell me," he said. "I dreamed," Mike started. "This is going to sound really, really crazy. I know, but I dreamed that there was a child, a human child, inside my wardrobe." He pointed to the direction of the closet and let out a nervous laughter. "Calm down," Sully said. "It must have been because of the movie you watched before you went to sleep." "Childzilla?" Mike mocked it. "No, I've seen that movie more than 10 times." "Well, why don't you try to sleep again?" Sully suggested after a yawn. Mike cleared his throat awkwardly. "I remember when I was a child, my mother used to bring me a mud popsicle when I had a nightmare," he said. Sully sighed patiently, then left and returned from the kitchen with a muddy popsicle for Mike. "She used to sing a lullaby too," said Mike. With his deep, husky voice, Sully began to sing. "Good night, Mikey, with the sharp claws and green hair. Good night, little big eyes. Have a peaceful dream. Little big eye." Mikey corrected his friend, snuggling under the covers. "My mom used to take a look inside the closet too." With another patient sigh, Sully opened Mike's closet door and looked inside. "There's nothing here," he announced. But suddenly there was a noise and something fell out of the closet. It was a yellow mop. "Ah!" Mike shouted, looking over the covers. Then he relaxed. "Oh, I'm really sorry. In the dark, I thought the mop was, a human child." He shrugged and gave Sully another awkward smile. Sully found the situation funny. "Don't be silly, Mike," he said. "No child will ever be lost wandering in Monstropolis. That would be a disaster." "You're right," Mike agreed sleepily. "Good night, Sully." "Good night, Mike." That is all for today, but there's always more amazing tales to tell. Before I leave, do not forget, first of all, if you are not part of the clan, hit the subscribe button to be part of it. Second, hit as well the like button to let YouTube know that these tales must reach others. That way you can help spread them to the four corners of the realm. And Thirdly, ring the bell icon so you can be notified of new tales to listen. Until then, may the gods of old guide thee in thy path.